In 1453, as the Ottoman cannons thundered against the ancient walls of a mighty city, few could imagine that inside its gates, a combination of courage, clever tactics, and sheer determination would stretch the defense longer than anyone expected. The city, a jewel of trade, culture, and religion for centuries, had faced sieges before, but none with the scale, power, and ambition of the Ottoman Sultan, who sought not only conquest, but the symbolic end of a civilization. On the city walls, commanders shouted orders over the roar of artillery, their voices barely audible above collapsing towers and the tremor of the earth. Citizens, soldiers, and volunteers alike moved quickly to repair breaches, move supplies, and maintain morale, knowing that a single lapse could open the gates to an unstoppable army. Inside the walls, engineers worked tirelessly to reinforce weak points, digging trenches, constructing counter-fortifications, and using old towers to create overlapping fields of fire. The defenders included veterans of earlier battles, mercenaries from distant lands, and young recruits pressed into service, all united by the urgency of survival. The city's layout, with narrow streets, hidden passages, and fortified towers, offered advantages that the attackers could not fully anticipate. Ottoman engineers had created massive cannons, including some capable of firing stone balls weighing hundreds of kilograms, and these weapons pounded the walls relentlessly. Each impact sent clouds of dust and debris into the air, shaking the ground beneath the feet of those defending and terrifying the civilians sheltered nearby. Night offered little relief as fires lit up the skyline, signaling the destruction of homes, warehouses, and temples. Yet the defenders moved silently undercover, slipping behind shattered walls to repair, reinforce, and reload defenses. Snipers took positions in damaged towers, picking off soldiers who ventured too close to breaches, while small squads used grappling hooks and ladders to counter any attempted escalade. Messages and signals crisscrossed the city constantly. Runners carried orders, flags indicated positions, and drums maintained rhythm for coordinated counterattacks. Morale became as critical as gunpowder. Food and water supplies dwindled, but leaders motivated both citizen and soldier alike, reminding them that every day of resistance drained the attacker's strength and gave hope to allies far away. Weather played its role as well, as spring rains turned outer moats into muddy obstacles, slowing the Ottoman siege engines and disrupting their formations. In the streets, civilians constructed improvised barricades, reinforced gates, and assisted the wounded, blending seamlessly with soldiers to present a united front. The defenders' knowledge of the terrain and the city's labyrinthine passages allowed them to stage ambushes, trap enemy units in narrow alleys, and destroy supply wagons that managed to penetrate outer defenses. Despite the overwhelming firepower and numbers of the Ottoman forces, the defenders exploited every weakness, rotating troops to prevent exhaustion, using psychological warfare, and spreading misinformation to confuse the besiegers. Each night, exhausted soldiers slept on the bare stone floors, listening to distant drums of the encamped enemy, fully aware that dawn could bring an unprecedented assault. The attackers attempted to breach the walls through mining operations, but defenders countermined, creating underground fights that further drained morale and resources. Time became an ally for the city's defenders. The longer they held out, the more vulnerable the attackers became to disease, supply shortages, and internal tension. Even simple acts like rolling barrels of pitch down slopes or hurling stones from the walls had a profound cumulative effect, turning the city into a fortress not just of stone, but of human ingenuity. In the middle of the chaos, certain defenders emerged as critical figures, not famous leaders, but ordinary individuals whose actions shifted the course of skirmishes. A young engineer who reinforced a crumbling tower just in time to prevent collapse, a baker who supplied food to exhausted soldiers, and a small group of soldiers who rearmed cannons after a breach, turning them immediately on advancing units. Each act, small in isolation, collectively created a defense that frustrated an empire, and every day the city survived, the stories spread along trade routes, inspiring hope and fear simultaneously. The Ottomans adjusted their strategy constantly, learning from setbacks, but the defenders anticipated many moves, predicting lines of attack based on previous days, and countering with traps, hidden fortifications, and calculated sallies. When enemy siege towers approached, defenders poured boiling oil, shot arrows, and dropped stones from above, inflicting casualties that slowed progress. Ammunition and supplies were rationed carefully, and communication between towers ensured that no breach went undefended. Civilians played a crucial role, fetching arrows, assisting wounded soldiers, and maintaining morale by singing, drumming, or otherwise showing visible resistance to prevent despair. Nightly patrols and watches ensured that the enemy could not sneak into the city under cover of darkness, while strategic fires were lit to mislead attackers and reveal their movements. The siege dragged on for weeks, with both sides suffering from fatigue, exposure, and stress. The psychological battle was as intense as the physical one, with defenders cultivating the belief that the city's survival was possible despite overwhelming odds, and attackers growing frustrated as their massive investment of resources seemed to yield limited results. Reports from Ottoman envoys noted the unexpected tenacity of the population, the clever use of terrain and architecture, and the ability of the defenders to recover
recover quickly from artillery strikes. Inside the walls, defenders shared stories of previous victories, encouraged one another with reminders of their families and history, and improvised solutions to unprecedented problems, some using simple materials to repair siege engines or reinforce walls temporarily. The city became a microcosm of resilience, old and young, trained soldier and unarmed citizen, working together against a common threat. Every attempt to penetrate the defenses was met with coordination, courage, and improvisation, and every failure for the attackers eroded confidence in their commanders and in their own supposed invincibility. In strategic terms, the defenders understood the value of delaying actions. Every day spent resisting allowed allies elsewhere to organize, diverted resources, and created psychological strain. News of the defense reached distant lands, shaping perceptions of the empire and showing that even the mightiest forces could be challenged under the right conditions. Over time, attrition and unexpected challenges, disease, miscommunication, poor weather, and logistical bottlenecks undermined the attackers' effectiveness, while the defenders adapted constantly, learning from each engagement and improving tactics with remarkable speed. The culmination of the siege was not a single epic clash, but a series of small victories, improvisations, and strategic countermoves that collectively frustrated the attackers' objectives. When the city finally negotiated terms for surrender, it was not defeated in the classical sense, but it forced concessions, demonstrated resilience, and left a legacy of tactics, determination, and human ingenuity. For historians, the siege stands out not because of a single hero or monumental event, but because it showcases the collective strength of ordinary people, the tactical genius of defense without a single recognized general, and the extraordinary ways a population can leverage environment, architecture, and willpower to resist overwhelming odds. For modern audiences in the UK, US, and worldwide, the story resonates because it transcends culture, religion, or politics, focusing instead on universal themes: courage under pressure, creativity under constraint, and the remarkable capacity for organized resistance. The city's defenders did not rely on fame or fortune. They relied on knowledge, preparation, teamwork, and an unyielding refusal to yield, demonstrating lessons still relevant to contemporary strategy, leadership, and crisis management. Long after the cannons fell silent, the memory of those days endured, in letters, chronicles, and stories passed down, describing how a seemingly ordinary population defied one of the most formidable armies of its era. It remains a testament to the power of organized resistance, tactical intelligence, and the courage of people who, against the odds, transformed a doomed situation into a legend of resilience.